What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today, after a couple of hours between the Bulls and the Cleveland Cavaliers game, there's a general, fact. Maybe you could say it was a fact, but everybody is basically saying it here now. The Chicago Bulls got outworked in that Cleveland Cavaliers game. Billy Donovan said it in his press conference. I think I said it in the game reaction. I feel like a bunch of people have been saying it. The hustle stats don't lie. The offensive rebounding stats do not lie. The second chance opportunities do not lie, and everything in between. But why are the Chicago Bulls getting outworked? What is the possible reason and excuse to get outworked in games? And why is it a common theme? Because you might be saying, okay, it's just one game. We got outworked against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That is completely fine. We'll move over into the next game. We'll work a little bit harder. We'll go for the win and stuff of that nature. But I hate to break it to you guys, but the hard work stats, the hustle stats, as you like to call them, the offensive rebounds, the 50-50 chances, the second chance opportunities, these things are the things that we have been actually, pretty bad at for the past couple of weeks. So what can we do as a Chicago Bulls team to get back on the right track and to be part of that team that we often know as hardworking? Before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and whether or not you believe they are a hardworking team and how can they get back to that hardworking stage. Let me start off by saying this. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that this Bulls team doesn't work hard throughout the entirety of the season. Again, it's a long season, it's a grueling season, and we have players that are known to work hard. Alex Cruz is one of the hardest working players on the team. I know people don't like to give Zach LaVine his credit here, but there is a bunch of NBA players that have called Zach LaVine's workouts and Zach LaVine's training sessions behind the scenes some of the most difficult and hardest working you'll ever find. We know by looking at Kobe White and how he plays on the court how hardworking he is. I really think Ayo is a hardworking player. I know DeRozan gets a lot of stick, but I think DeMar DeRozan is a very hardworking player, especially offensively when he feels like he has to take over games. He's working extremely hard to do that. It's as simple as that. The durability of these players as well is something to take note of, but whatever the case may be, I think this Bulls team is a hardworking team. I don't want to get rid of the connotation that the Bulls are a hardworking team, but it's this recent stretch I'm talking about here where the Bulls have not considered, a hard-working team. And we got to figure out why that is. Well, I want to talk about the schedule real quick. I feel like the schedule has been a little bit of a grueling one for the Chicago Bulls. I think if you look at our record compared to a bunch of other teams around the NBA, we have played a tad bit more games than most teams in the NBA. We've had our fair share of back-to-backs. We don't necessarily have a massive amount of rest and everything in between. So you might say the schedule has gotten a small factor into why the Bulls have started to slow down a little bit and maybe has regressed in the hard-working categories and those hustle categories because they maybe just be a tad bit too tired. Now again, every team is going to go through 82 games. Simple as that. Some areas of our season will be more grueling than others. And I feel like even though the games have been considered easier games and easier tests, throughout the whole beginning of the season, I feel like our schedule has been a grueling one. And therefore, it might be able to play a factor into these types of games now where you see them as winnable, but you don't often win all of them. And that's a frustrating factor, but that is something that can get in the way. Now, thankfully, after this game against Cleveland, guess what we're going to have? A couple of days off. Our next game, again, for me in Australia, this game was at Tuesday afternoon. Our next game is Friday afternoon. So that's at least 3 days to really get things right. We could go and travel to Toronto early, get your rest, maybe get a training session in there, a proper training session. I'm not talking about light shoot-arounds. I'm talking about a proper training session where you're looking at film, where you're really dissecting and trying to analyze and change things about the game that you're playing. And you're putting more emphasis into the hustle stats and maybe even doing training drills based on hustle stats alone. Those are the things I'm talking about when you have a couple of days off that you get the luxury to do. Whereas when you're playing a game every second day, you have a day, to play a game, a day off, a day to play the game, the day off. You don't get much training sessions. It's as simple as that. Your body just can't take working at that level for every single day. So you need your days off, especially when there's back-to-backs as well. So with a couple of days off, you will get a day to really actually focus on a training session, focus on the shooting, focus on, the hustle plays. You get to focus on all of the issues that the Chicago Bulls have been having. Try to form strategies as to why that is the case. That's the luxury that we have in a couple of days' time. So if you see in the next game against Toronto, the Toronto Raptors outworking the Bulls by a significant amount. I'm not saying, a slight amount, because at the end of the day, it's their home and they're going to be more energized and they'll be more inclined to win that type of game. But if they heavily outwork the Chicago Bulls, if the Chicago Bulls don't show up for a half or for a section of the game and it really comes back to bite us, you can look at the game against Toronto, and you can say there's absolutely no excuse. You cannot put any excuse under the sun. Some people might even say there's no excuses now, but there's definitely no excuses if they don't work hard and try to improve their hustle plays and their hustle stats against the Toronto Raptors, who are also known for the same type of category, for hustle plays, for, the defensive stats and stuff of that nature. We've got to be very careful against the Toronto Raptors. Let's move over into the second thing. And this is the thing that will obviously bring a little bit more controversy. I think the starting lineup changes has really hurt the Chicago Bulls in terms of hustle plays. And look, it's basic common sense here. I'm not here to really throw facts and stats at you. I'm not really here to say if you disagree that you're wrong. Here's how I see it right now, right? When Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic both returned to the team at the same time, they came off the bench. And the same starting five that you saw, Kobe White, Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Andre Drummond. That was our starting five. You might look at that starting five and say, that's not necessarily a great starting five to play out there. But I'll tell you what the starting five consisted of: energy and hustle. It's as simple as that. You could question Andre Drummond's good games and bad games all you like. He provides a lot more energy and hustle on the defensive end than a Nikola Vucevic. Obviously, Patrick Williams in the starting lineup instead of a Zach LaVine, because we know AC is still starting. Again, Patrick Williams is a better defender. Maybe a better one-on-one defender. I think a better off-ball defender as well. I just think Patrick Williams is a better defender. And he provides a little bit more of a spark on the defensive end for the Chicago Bulls. And the hustle plays, I think, come because of that. DeMar DeRozan can be hidden a little bit more on the defensive end. And he can help play the passing lanes just a tad bit more to start games. And when we start games, we actually feel like we're in the game from the very beginning. The one thing against Cleveland and the Spurs that I cannot defend is that the Spurs went on to a big run before the Bulls had to respond. Cleveland went on a bigger run, and the Bulls took all game to respond. These are things that need to change. And the starting lineup changes, in my opinion, is a big factor in that. Vucevic is just not the hustle player, is just not the defensive player that Andre Drummond is. And I'll go on a limb here and arguably say it's not even close these days. Drummond is a much leaps and bounds better defensive player than a Nikola Vucevic. But Nikola Vucevic does provide a tad bit more on the offensive end. So there's a balancing act there. And I just don't know if Vucevic is actually the right starter. But I know that conversation will be dead and buried as soon as I mention it, because we know Vuce is getting paid more money. We know Vuce can provide more in terms of stats, and he's going to start games whether I like it or not. But there are certain games where he should start, and I think there are certain games where he should be benched. Especially when he's having bad games and he's shooting 5-6 threes out there. I think that instantly should put him on the bench, to be honest, because he's just not been a prolific three-point shooter to be taking those types of shots every single possession down the floor. So that's one thing, right? And obviously LaVine's been an improved defender. Let's put it that way. Since he's come back, he's put a shift in on the defensive end. But let's be honest, he's still not the best defender out there on the floor. He could guard a guy one-on-one. I've always said he could guard guys one-on-one. I've never really been a guy that goes back on that statement. I think the off-ball movements and I think the off-ball cuts and Zach LaVine falling asleep in the corners and stuff like that, it's always been his biggest weakness. And I just think Patrick Williams does a better job defensively. So we're talking about defense here. When our offense doesn't go, because our big three net rating is still very bad. So it's clear our offense doesn't work with the big three either. But the defensive end is where we're focusing at. And that's where it really, I think, takes a big turn when all three of them are playing on the same court together. And that's why I think changes need to be made to the starting lineup, in all honesty. And I know it's a conversation that people won't be ready to have now, but if we continue to lose games, we should be winning. Let's hope it doesn't happen. We've still won more games than we've lost in recent times. But if we eventually go back to losing ways, people will start having this conversation. People will start pointing fingers at Zach LaVine. People are pointing fingers at Nikola Vucevic right now. So it's a conversation that we might eventually need to have in the future. And we'll wait to see how it goes. But what do you guys think? Do you think the Bulls could get over this, stumbling block of a, hustle deficit. I don't know what it's called. Let me know. Thank you for watching. Drop a like and a follow and or subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care. And peace.